Hello everyone and welcome back to the Over Manga Cast. That time we woke up in a podcast and had to explain manga, our heated adventures overanalyzing manga that we find interesting. And this week starts off our much beloved annual tradition. That's right everybody, it's November. So that means it's time for No Read November. And what better way to kick off our third year of spending a month watching crappy live action anime adaptations? Actually, I can think of several better ways, but we are going to just go for the obvious, and we're going to watch Fullmetal Alchemist, The Final Alchemy. I'd say enjoy the show, but really, I know what you're here for. Enjoy our suffering. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Over Manga Cast. My name is Sam, and we have returned once again to hell. It's No Read November, and you know what that means. Fullmetal Alchemist live action movie. I'm very tired. I'm apparently the only one who's very tired, but here we are.
It's finally over. I'm just excited we don't have to do another one of these.
I'm still skeptical. They said that this is the final. I don't know.
It's called The Final Alchemy.
They've adapted the whole manga at this point.
Part 4, The Finaler Alchemy, next year.
Jake, shut up. So yeah, as usual, we talk about our familiarity with the franchise that we have consumed, I suppose. As of last time, I have seen all of the Fullmetal Alchemist anime, both 2003 and Brotherhood, and the anime movies. You know, the Elric versus Hitler, that was a good time. And the movies, all of them now, for whatever good that's worth. How about you, Matt?
Same, actually. I think I've seen all of Fullmetal Alchemist. Now that includes all 3 live-action movies.
Yay. Jay, how about you?
Same. I have seen the original Brotherhood and now all 3 live-action movies.
Wonderful. And Jacob?
Same as before, basically. I keep trying to get into Fullmetal Alchemist, and for whatever reason, I bounce off of it despite my best efforts, despite it being absolutely up my alley. I've seen a couple of the anime movies. Conqueror of Shambhala is the one that sticks out most in my mind.
Yeah, the Elric versus Hitler.
Unfortunately, the closest I've come to seeing the thing the whole way through is the live-action movies, which is pain and suffering and unpleasant, and I don't want to... We're going to try to get through this, dear listeners. We couldn't find a synopsis for this movie because I think we're the only people who have suffered all the way through this experience.
In fact, comment below if you actually have seen this movie.
Yeah, there's no synopsis on the internet. We're going off of our raw memory at this point.
I also want to point out, this movie is 2.5 hours long.
It's so long. Okay. You remember how nothing happened in the Revenge of Scar? They realized, nothing happened in the Revenge of Scar. I guess that means we need to do literally every iconic moment right the hell now.
But we got enough play of the original movie for a sequel, so obviously we did something right. We're going to do nothing even harder.
You want your favorite moments from the series? I got you. We're going to have no connecting material. We're just going to go from one to the other as if you're watching a slideshow.
Yeah, it's really incredible how much nothing happens in the first hour of this movie. Well, we open up with Teach just showing up out of nowhere.
So we open up, actually, with Hohenheim in this random carriage
in a
across
Wild
the
West
desert.
set.
Yes. You know, he's casually asked by one of the other passengers about, did you go and visit or, tell me about yourself. And he then expresses that he went to go visit his sons. And what was supposed to be, some lighthearted conversation.
He just turns it really weirdly dark.
They don't need their dad anymore.
Hold on, I need to be killed by bandits. As Wild West bandits ride on horseback, rob the stagecoach, and shoot him 6 times through the chest. But not through the clothing, mind you.
Because
there's special alchemy bullets that pass through clothes without dealing any damage to them.
we only had the one costume, okay? They wouldn't let us put holes in it.
It doesn't matter, because that gets interrupted with Teach and her husband just jumping out to fight banditos for some reason.
I'm an ordinary housewife.
And we get to see, like, all of, like, 2 punches be thrown and somebody getting judo thrown.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes.
And I know what you're thinking, dear listener. Wait a minute, you didn't mention Teach at all in the previous 2 movies. Why is she here all of a sudden? I wish I could tell you.
Okay, so I apparently have the least experience with Fullmetal Alchemist. However, I know Teach. I fucking love Teach. So it almost pains me to say it, but quite frankly, she's a character you can cut from an adaptation like this. She is important for the character of the Elrics, but if you can convey enough of their characters without bringing up Teach, that's a bunch of time you don't have to spend on a character that you can either randomly cut to and has no connection with the rest of the movie, or would bloat the movie to all get out, which these movies do both of those.
But they needed her for a human sacrifice at the end.
Yes.
They can just change the number of human sacrifices.
I don't think they know they can.
No, we have to do the proper number, otherwise the fans are gonna get angry.
Yeah, they're definitely not gonna get angry from the absolute shit pile movie that we made.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, Teach fights some banditos with Hohenheim. Her husband is definitely in the movie, I guess.
He has no lines of dialogue.
And then, in a really awkward scene, Teach takes Hohenheim into an alley. Hohenheim goes like, "Hey girl, you looking pretty bad. How about I rearrange them guts?"
You definitely look like one of them did human transmutation types. What did they take? Oh, they took my organs, including my womb. Oh, that sucks. Let me put your organs back in the right order.
He just shoves his hand inside of her. It's real weird.
Yeah. And then he starts mumbling something about the promised day, and it's like, Hohenheim.
I mean, are we canceling Hohenheim?
Yes, hashtag cancel Hohenheim.
We're going to be canceling everybody by the end of this movie, because there's some weird shit that happens. I know that editing Sam in the future is having to censor me a lot, but this evokes emotions.
Look, it doesn't matter, because almost immediately after that, they cut straight back to the ending of last movie, which is Lynn, Ed, and Greed all fighting inside of Gluttony, which
Envy,
looks...
I think.
Oh, Envy. No, they're inside of Gluttony.
They're inside of Gluttony.
They're fighting Envy.
Right, I said Greed instead of Envy, you're right. Greed died.
Shows up later.
And whatever. But yeah, so they're fighting inside a green screen. It looks bad.
Which is where Ed will be for the remainder of the movie.
Oh yeah, Ed's actor never leaves the green screen room. They have like 3 sets.
The fight's not great. None of the action happens on screen. At one point, they get knocked onto a platform of concrete, I think just to save green screen CGI. I don't know.
Question mark?
Well, no, it's so Ed can see the broken piece of the Xerxes transmutation
Yeah,
circle.
that's the story reason. The real reason is so they're not just in a puddle of blood they have to animate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the blood is not real. The blood is not there. It is aggressively fake looking, like most things in this movie.
So they manage to... This is intercut with scenes outside where Al is talking with... Where Al is kind of just shouting at Gluttony, and Gluttony's like, "Oh no, Father's gonna be angry at me, oh no."
You have a father? I'm played by another person again.
So we watched the dub again, just for consistency's sake, and I don't know if the translators just gave up as hard as everybody else, but a lot of the dialogue, and Al in particular, feels just like directly fed through Google Translate once with no attempt at smoothing it out.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it was translated by somebody who knows both languages. It feels like it was literally translated word for word, sentence structure and all at times.
Or I would even ask if they actually had translated an entire script and worked backwards from that, or...
Oh, you know what? I bet you that's what it was.
Or if they just translated line by line.
There's also some weird line reads where I'm almost certain this isn't the case because this is a professionally made movie and I would hope not.
Ostensibly.
But it sounds like sometimes they just say grammatically incorrect sentences to the point they don't make sense.
Mm-hmm. And this is particularly highlighted because our framing device is Mustang in Central doing a coup, I guess. Because he's in Central at this point talking with one of the generals.
Best character in the movie, by the way. I loved this guy.
I swear, General Raven was drunk in universe and on set.
I loved the actor for General Raven. He was like, oh, what, I'm in one of them anime movies the kids like? Well, better be a cartoon character, Tom and Jerry.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What's that, Mustang? You heard rumors that the Führer King Bradley is a homunculus? Those rumor talkers are confused.
Better go into the room full of all the old dudes so we can tell them about this. The high military brass is here. Hey, guys, Mustang here thinks that our leader's a homunculus. And then Wrath steps out from the shadows to go, oh, you think I'm a homunculus, do you? Well, we'll go into my office and yes, I am a homunculus. Be cool about it.
Okay.
And here is the opportune time for you to make a negotiation, for possibly more recognition, higher salary, whatever you want.
I legitimately don't even remember what Mustang asked for.
Mustang literally asked for, why are you keeping me alive? And he said, because you could potentially still be useful. And at that time, I'm just like I said, this is the primary time to be like, so can I negotiate a raise?
I mean, we have a character who later on does almost exactly that, which is hilarious.
But the entire point of this is just for Mustang to then leave, talk to Hawkeye, and go, yep, nope, military's corrupt. Time to choose violence.
Mm-hmm.
Time to do a coup.
And if you were hoping that Hawkeye was going to do literally anything in any of these movies, well, I have some bad news.
Mm-hmm. So, let's see. That's, the doc showing up. That's revealing that Wrath is Wrath. We haven't done the thing with the Alchemy and Alchemy book in the drawing of the circle. Hey, let's grab Scar's brother's notebook out of this wall in a cabin in the woods.
Oh, we're not even there yet, because at this point in the movie, Ed and Lynn are still stuck in gluttony with envy. So we need to have a scene where Al takes gluttony to Father so we can meet Father.
Oh, right.
And then Ed can open the door of truth to get them out in a way that means that Al's scene is completely f***ing pointless.
And I really just...
And I think they just leave. I don't even know how that scene ends.
I just love how they suck the emotion out of everything in this. Because this is a similar scene to the one in the anime, obviously, because we have to hit all of those key visuals. And in the show and in the manga, Ed gets to see Al's body in the Door of Truth, and he's dragged away before he can bring Al along with him. The door closes, and then Ed, heroic shonen protagonist that he is, punches through the door and promises to come back for him. And in this, it's just, Al, I'll come back for you.
He's like, cool, sounds good. Thank you.
See you next week.
I mean,
or whatever the time scale
I guess I
is in
expected
this.
more fanfare, you know? It's been like a decade. I don't know if they have an outer sense of time or something like that, but it's just like...
I mean, these movies don't have a sense of time.
To be fair, Alphonse also just is a soulless body, so it's not like he cares all that much.
Gluttony vomits them up in a hilarious visual.
If you want to call it vomiting, as far as like just like
My boy is just a Pez dispenser, just yoink, yoink, yoink.
Oh, pelvic thrusting.
it's like it's a little sexual.
that occurs way too often in this movie.
We have the meeting with Father, which goes about the way you'd expect it. There's a shocking amount of just continuity errors, I would call them. Like, Father does the thing of turning off alchemy in the region, and that makes Ed fall to his knees. Only for Ed to then immediately jump back up, do the hand clap, drop back down to his knees to try to summon something. And it's like, why did you fall in the first place? He didn't create any, like, shockwave. No one else fell.
Because of reasons.
Because of reasons. God, how did they even get out of that?
I don't know.
They just leave.
Like, I was gonna say, I don't know what is the key to them escaping.
Well, they're in the CGI room, and when they go to the next scene, they need to use the same CGI room, so the villains just kind of disappear.
I think now I'm trying to recall. Do Scar?
Oh no, Scar throws Al's head against the pipe
that's
to
right.
cause a
Oh, that's
spark,
right. I forgot that is when this happened.
which ignites some gas.
I guess there's a random explosion.
And that gets them out of there, I suppose. And at this point, now we are getting to the cabin in the woods with the notes from Scar's brother. Ed still hasn't figured out what in the nine hells is going on. Somehow.
Ed hasn't done anything. Like,
Nobody's done anything.
all three of these movies seem aggressively designed to strip all of the, like, protagonist elements away from Edward Elric. He's just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
They keep acting like he's important, but he is very much so not. He does nothing.
So, with all that in mind, we haven't done Fort Briggs yet. Okay, we go there.
Because they find Scar's brother's notes is the thing where he found out that
Circles around.
circles are round, and their country that's the shape of a circle is also in the shape of a transmutation circle.
So we have to stop them from doing something up at Fort Briggs that'll, like, finish it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, to be fair, this is one of the most clear things in the movie, which, like, that's not a compliment. That's actually a problem. Because, they keep mentioning that, there have been civil wars in each of these regions at different points. Apparently it's not a civil war in this one. They're provoking the neighboring country, I guess. Like, they waffle back and forth on what exactly is going on there, because nothing in this movie is clear.
Mm-hmm. So Ed arrives at Briggs, and we have no time to meet any of the Briggs soldiers or Brigadier General Armstrong.
He fights them in the snow for a little bit because Ed goes alone, which in the context of the movie doesn't make any sense.
No, doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
The other characters are not currently tied up in entanglements.
They just decided not to go with him for some reason.
Yeah, and so I guess it's for just for dramatic tension, or it's supposed to be because Winry's there for reasons.
Well, she kind of gets introduced like midway through, and then Ed has to go, "No, you foolish girl, don't you know? You're only here to be a hostage so that I play ball." And she's like, a hostage?
What? And 5 minutes later, it didn't matter. It meant nothing. Because Sloth shows up, and he looks terrible.
Oh my god, the entire sequence with Sloth.
So all of the CGI in this has been kind of bad. Sloth looks worse.
Sloth looks like... Okay, so, like, we've made comparisons to, like, this looks like something from, like, the GameCube era. This looks like mid-2000s. This makes N64 look good, is what Sloth looks like. It is I don't know how this happened. He doesn't look like he exists in the space.
And, like, we're so starved for action scenes, because there have been fights, but they weirdly cut away from actually showing you any action for, like, the first chunk of the movie. And then Fort Briggs, they're finally showing you, like, a fight, and it's Sloth versus basically Armstrong, right?
Yeah, Armstrong and the Briggs soldiers in their World of Tanks advertisement.
And we're not saying because there are tanks. We mean it looks like those ads you see for World of Tanks with the terrible CG tanks just shooting at Sloth like 2 feet away from them.
And like, so you have Sloth who looks unbelievably awful. Like, I don't know how this ever got past anything. Then you have the World of Tanks, which look the kind of bad you would expect from this movie. And then you have Armstrong, except the best part is, like, she almost looks CG because of the way that she's composited on. And then she starts clipping through the tank she's supposed to be in.
They spent no time on this. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's because the entire Fort Briggs plotline is just a circle. Because Sloth shows up, they kick his ass, they dump him in the snow and freeze him. Mm-hmm. And then General Raven is there, and he's like, oh, actually, he's important for secret military reasons. Put him back in the hole he came out of. Oh, wow, what's that? The neighboring country's been provoked. I guess there's going to be a lot of bloodshed. Wow, what a crazy coincidence. And Ed's like, okay, so my attempt to come here and stop the evil plot has failed utterly.
I am completely useless and will continue to be so for the rest of this interminably long movie.
Because this was like, was this when we paused for like, how long has it been? And we saw that it was an hour, and Matt and I entered a state of existential dread.
Because at this point, it had felt like we should be 75% of the way through the movie, and we weren't even half.
Yeah, it was something.
The suffering of Matt and Sam was quite enjoyable. It was the only reason why I am not in their state as well.
So, let's see, what else did we miss? Salim Bradley.
I think that happens after where we're at, but
yeah.
So he was introduced in the last movie, and they told the audience that he's one of the homunculi. Mm-hmm. Ed appears to be aware of this fact.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, we forgot about Pride. All right, they're in the woods. Pride starts attacking. We need to find his actual body.
Oh, there it is.
One cut later, Ed is walking up on Salim in a clearing, like, I knew it was you, Pride. Huh? So you figured it out, Fullmetal Alchemist.
Also, I want to point out this entire movie has this exact same problem, but this section is the worst. When you've got cheaper CGI, normally you want to hide that by making it dark or something. It's almost like they heard you should have dark scenes, but then when they were looking at it, they're like, this is way too dark. We better turn the brightness up. Because it's just bad CGI, and then like artificially brightened scenes.
Well, I mean, there was one scene where it was a night scene with bad CGI, but there was like a spotlight on the actual scene on the character.
We know this is bad, and we want to highlight how bad it is, just so you can see it.
We can't believe you let us make this many.
Yes.
And see, this is part of the reason why I don't know how much time is passing. Because every time it's night, it's so bright. Because the moon is always full. There's always an establishing shot of the moon being full. So it's gotta have been, what, not even a week? But they're talking like it's months at a time.
No, you see, in this version of the Fullmetal Alchemist universe, the moon is always full for maximum dramatic ambiance.
That sounds about right.
It does. Yeah. You know, shenanigans happens during a full moon.
The rotation of the Earth and the moon are in sync.
So is this also when they just basically, like, scene for scene, do the trap Celine in a earth cage?
Yeah.
The visual of the earth cage, like, pulling up and closing was not bad. It was a low bar, but it was at least anything that happened, which is better than what we've been dealing with up to this point.
And then Alphonse is inside there, and he goes, "Aha, you fell for our trap. It was the only way to get rid of your shadow powers."
We know about your shadow powers for some reason.
The audience has not been told about the shadow powers.
Mm-hmm. So...
What even happens next? I don't remember.
I forget if the whole Celine thing is part of their coup, or the coup is waiting for them to capture Celine to go forward.
I think it's the latter, because we then
wait, no. Something that happens next. Armstrong is like, goes to Central and is like, hey, you're like an evil homunculus monster who wants to take over the world, right? That's hot. Make me immortal.
Yeah.
yeah. Brigadier General Armstrong goes to infiltrate the circle of the elites by selling out Fort Briggs.
Immediately.
Yeah, negotiating for that raise and those extra vacation days.
Negotiating, yes. Immediately.
And Wrath says, "I am not suspicious of you at all. I will immediately allow this to happen.
I trust you completely."
Well, it's Wrath, so what kind of analytical anything is going on beyond this? That sounds good. Cool.
Oh, also, back when they were meeting Father, he turned Lynn into Greed.
Yes.
Oh, right.
That's right. That does happen.
Greedling barely matters.
So, yeah, they shove Greed into Lynn. They have a scene that's just obnoxious. It's just blue fire around them, and it's him talking to the CGI blue fire demon, and he's just like, "I like your greed, kid." He's just like, "I'll give you your body, but not all of me, but all of me." Cool.
It's also weird because he frames, his not wanting to disappoint the sacrifice of his guard as greed. And I'm like, that's the opposite of greed.
Well, I'm pretty sure if I understand the context from the anime and manga correctly, one of the things with Lin is, like, the idea of, like, the servants are his, and, like, that is, like, the greed angle of it. But, like, that was done a little bit in the previous movie. But nobody is introduced in any way in this movie except for, I think, Hohenheim.
This movie has too many characters.
Way too many characters.
And it keeps threatening so many of them, and I think at this point some have even died, and I just don't care.
Me neither.
Because they're not characters. They're placeholders. They're cardboard cutouts. They're the freaking action figures taken out of the package to play with. This is not Fullmetal Alchemist. This is playing at Fullmetal Alchemist.
Also, this is a small thing, but it just bothered me. In the anime, the scenes of Lang talking to Greed and the battle inside the mines is all like red and black because, that's Greed's color scheme. I don't know why they made it this incredibly obnoxious blue. Maybe they made it the original red and black and they're like, that's too visually unreadable. Nobody can tell what's going on. You can't tell what's going on in the blue and white either.
It's weird.
It's very weird. So he'll just randomly show up to, I don't know, exposit menacingly and then be non-committal.
I also like how Greedling's entire thing is he's got black eyeshadow and, like, patchy makeup under his eyes.
Yeah. That's how you know he is evil and dark and edgy.
It works for me.
It's not just a phase, Emperor.
It's not just a phase, Father.
It's great. The evil freckles.
God, where the hell were we? Oh, right, Brigadier General Armstrong's totally not a betrayal.
Well, because a coup's going on, and this coup... So they do a great overhead shot of Central, and you're like, oh man, that's really good. But then you realize, oh no, they must have had this from the previous movies, because it's an actual, like, overhead shot, whereas everything else in this movie has been just bad CG. Mm-hmm. Like, really bad CG. Like, one, we skimmed over it, but there was a scene at the train station where we had to pause because there are just PS2 extras walking in the background.
They were literally, like, the background extras were CG models that I swear got taken from a PS2 game.
Taken right out of Final Fantasy VII.
There's another scene at Briggs where you see people running around in the background because the battle has started. This might be a little bit later, but it's around this time. And, like, you can tell from the run cycle they're not people. Like, they don't move like human beings. They run like video game models with a run cycle. Mm-hmm. It's absurd.
So, yeah. This is when the coup happens. Well,
to be fair, this is when we're told the coup happens. Because, man, do they fight the hardest to make sure the entirety of that coup happens off screen.
Yep. They speed run so much in the first hour so that the last hour can be, all the climactic last battles, and it just feels so dragged out.
You remember the, 30 seconds Hawkeye's dog was in there?
Hey, it's that dog.
That dog.
And the rest of Mustang's friends.
Yeah.
They sure exist.
They show up.
Look, the dog was the best character. It was a very cute ship.
They show up long enough for Mustang to be like,
sure do have some comrades, don't I?
We're going into battle. That means my orders are only this. Don't die. Frickin' Halo 3 ass one-liner.
Hey, don't you insult Halo 3 by comparing it to this crap.
Oh, God. At some point, Sloth pops out of the ground. Then...
Oh, yeah!
Yeah. Here's where, the concept of time completely freaking breaks down. Because the assault on Central by, the Briggs soldiers and Sloth is there and, everyone's fighting.
Because,
it's all in bright daylight.
And there's a whole thing of, why are these soldiers out of position? And it's revealed, it's because I was a traitor all along, says Brigadier General Armstrong. The obvious reveal. She does some things that were not painfully boring, but were just mostly boring. And that's when Sloth shows up. He just pops out of the ground because, his boss fight has started. You've triggered his boss fight.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, she and her cousin... cousins? Brothers?
Their brother.
I thought there were distant Armstrong relations. But
nope.
I don't know.
Brother and sister.
The two Armstrong siblings then fight Sloth for presumably
36 hours, I think.
Yeah, which is encapsulated within a minute, 30 seconds?
Yeah, because...
There is an amazing moment where Sloth... I mean, for a start, we need to show that Sloth is fast, but we can't have Sloth just one-shot one of them. So he has to miss both of them and smash face first into a wall. That was fun.
I am the fastest homunculus.
When I actually feel like it,
But then there's another point where he does it again to try to hit Brigadier General Armstrong, and it's like, oh no, has she been hit? And then Major Armstrong is holding him back with all of his might. Cut away to 3 transitions of the day-night cycle throughout the rest of the movie, and it comes back to Major Armstrong still holding him back. It's has this been going on for 36 hours?
They're also fighting Wrath.
By the way.
In the same time frame, vaguely.
Yeah, because we have a great moment of the Briggs soldiers and the rest of the rebels getting up to the front gates of headquarters.
We have 90% of the capital secured. That means we've completely won. Oh crap, the main boss is right there and completely unharmed.
This was honestly my favorite fight because of the sheer amount of stupid shit that happened with Wrath. We haven't mentioned it, but Old Man Fu has showed up a few times to just remind us that he's here, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be fair, what we're about to get with Wrath is literally anything, which was an unbelievable blessing at this point because all of us were done by now.
And
it's actually a halfway decent fight scene.
He's fighting with Greedling at one point.
Well, it starts off awful as usual because he just one-shots one of the Briggs soldiers, like the main Briggs soldier who
Buccaneer.
I don't think the movie names him.
His name's Buccaneer.
Well, that's delightful, but he's not named in the movie, so he's that guy over there with the chainsaw arm. That guy gets one shot, and then Greed shows up, and I'm in my rebellious phase is a line I'm going to keep repeating until I die 2 hours later in this endlessly long movie. And the fight between Wrath and Greed is actually, an action scene where things happen. It's delightful.
It's decently choreographed. I'm not going to call it good, but it's the most interesting thing visually that's happened.
It has the only time I laughed at something I think the movie meant as a joke. Because they got the old man ninja whose name I never learned.
Fu.
Old man Fu jumps in to set off some dynamite charges strapped to him to just take Wrath out in a kamikaze when Wrath cuts the fuses off of all the sticks of dynamite attached to him, and there's a lovely slow motion where the actor is just looking down at the cut dynamite and goes, "Oh no!"
his old man face twisted up like, "Oh shit!"
Holy shit! Oh my god!
We did the joke where we paused and it was then that he knew. You up.
Yeah, I mean, there's also another really funny moment where I think it was a continuity error. Matt is of the opinion it was done on purpose, where when Fu shows up initially, I mean, there's some pretty decent wire work going on, but there's just a shot where Wrath is reacting to something that just is not there.
Yeah.
And I think they just forgot to composite the shots, and the editors let it slip because they care about this movie just as much as the rest of us do.
I don't know at this point.
It's amazing. Fu jumps in and swings his sword, but he's obviously too far away from Wrath to hit him. But Wrath is "Pwah!" Big Perry, oh no!
Somebody stabs Fu, or somebody stabs Wrath through Fu.
One of the Briggs soldiers we don't get introduced to.
No.
Yep. So it's Wrath has been defeated.
Question mark?
That man sure lives with that stab wound for the rest of the 2 weeks of this movie.
Well,
yeah,
okay, this is very much a case where it's boy, this is the reason why this movie was a bad idea in the first place, because from what we've seen in the movie, that should not slow down a homunculus. A homunculus shouldn't even feel that, but then Sam, FMA Loremaster over here points out, no, they mentioned briefly in the movie the idea that Wrath was originally a human that got turned into a homunculus,
yes,
and therefore the rules are different. It is not established that the rules are different for humans turned into homunculi versus other homunculi. This is something you could only know if you've seen the original series, which if you had, why would you bother with this?
Uh-huh.
And if you hadn't, there's no way you could know that.
It's okay. Meanwhile, while all of this is going on, and also, actually, let's finish with the Wrath part, because this is where the whole timeline shenanigans get weird. Because Wrath
falls into the moat,
then swims up from the moat at night, and then goes and meets the group of them who are in the middle of killing Envy.
Mm-hmm.
In broad daylight.
Which happens in the green screen room.
Yes.
But all of this is happening while Sloth is beating up the Armstrongs.
Yeah, it's contiguous with the Sloth fight, and I don't know when anything is.
Oh.
Time is just a construct, everyone.
I don't know what's going on with that. But then comes to the part a lot of this movie is just I didn't enjoy. This made me mad. It's how much they make the drama of, oh no, Mustang wants to kill Envy. What a terrible monster he is.
Yeah, like, okay, this is an important point in the original text. It's supposed to be this thing of, like, Mustang is going to, like, give in to his anger and, like, become... It's not that he is a monster now, it's that he's going to become a monster if he continues down this path.
Because he's not doing what he's not involved in this fight because he's trying to do what's right, for the nation, for people. He's doing it out of his own personal anger. It's one of those ones where it's like, yes, the movie literally says those things, but boy, it does not earn a lick of it. Mm-hmm. It is a bunch of deep character exposition explained to the audience directly through characters saying it out loud, which is the worst freaking way to do that sort of thing. It is almost impossible to say out loud the things that these scenes are this particular scene is trying to convey.
Also, Ed and everybody else are here because why have this important character scene between Mustang and Hawkeye be just between them? No, we need to dilute it by adding everybody else.
Because Hawkeye is not allowed to do anything.
I love when they ask Scar what he feels about Mustang becoming a murderer for the things he loves. Even I, the evil man Scar, think that you should be a good man who changes the world for good, but you have strayed from your path. Like, Scar, you don't get to talk down to him like this.
I also think, I'm pretty sure at this point, Mustang looks up and is like, oh, Scar's here, what? When did that happen? Like, what the fuck?
So Envy, as done with this as we are, decides to just commit suicide. He rips out his own Philosopher's Stone and melts.
Power move.
Yeah, power move.
Have you ever been so done that you just commit Sudoku in front of everybody?
Hopefully not.
I don't blame Envy.
Neither.
I wish I could have gotten out of this movie.
Oh, man. So...
Oh, wait a second.
Is this where Scar starts fighting Raph?
No, you know what? We've skipped over the only halfway decent scene in the movie.
What's that?
We skipped over where they go into an empty CG warehouse and a door opens and the cum zombies are back.
Oh yeah! Because
Mustang shows up into this scene by stopping the only halfway enjoyable scene in the movie by one-shotting all of the cum zombies.
They fight all the cum zombies and then Envy's like, who killed all my cum zombies?
Seriously, they must be listening to our episodes because they know this is the best part of these entire series.
Because we totally didn't blow that entire...
Go ahead and say it.
We didn't blow that load in the first movie.
Honestly, that terrible pun is better than anything that was in this movie, I assure you.
So the coup goes off well. At some point, Hohenheim's backstory got revealed, but who cares?
They tell the Xerxes story in an exceedingly abridged and just boring way.
Well, like, here's the worst part. I get, because I am filmically literate, what each of these scenes are and mean, but they have absolutely no connective tissue between the start of Hohenheim's flashback. They never explain that this is Hohenheim telling the story to any other character, and it just ends with another completely disconnected scene. Like, if you're filmically literate, you can figure this out, and it's like, how the hell does Ed know that later in the movie?
Also, very confusingly, young Hohenheim is played by Ed's actor, and there's no indication this is a flashback, so you think Ed has just gone through a costume change for a little bit.
Yeah, why is Ed referring to himself as a slave?
I don't know. I mean, it just gave me the indication that essentially you are just genetically copying yourself throughout the ages.
Which, might not be incorrect, I guess.
Yeah, yes.
But, like, I understand through filmic literacy what was intended, but, like, it does feel like a continuity error, especially because of the overall incompetence of this movie, where later on, when Ed is using information in this scene, I had to, like, take myself out of the movie and think about, how the hell does Ed know that? Oh, that flashback that they didn't tell us was a flashback and had no indication was a flashback, was Hohenheim telling the story to Ed. Okay.
I guess.
That's a thing that happened at some point, and fine.
Sure, whatever, I guess. Oh, and then at this point it just kind of devolves into the slog of the eclipse and the final battle against Father. Like, the eclipse at least looked okay. I think it was the best visual, like, segment in the movie, because it has Father teleport the human sacrifices to... I thought it was just like a pocket dimension, but no, it was just another floor of the endless CG warehouse.
They literally just go downstairs.
Yeah.
Was this after they forced Mustang to do human transmutation and lose his eyesight?
It was during that scene.
I still don't... the movie's logic for how this scene works doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't at all.
Yeah, Mustang's just blind now. Just take his actor's word for it.
Yep.
He, I guess, tries to act blind.
Mm-hmm.
There's no indication of anything being wrong with his eyes, no cloudy contacts.
Well,
he doesn't even keep them closed.
I mean, that's another thing, though, from the sight-impaired community, though. That is not something that is necessarily indicative of loss
I know,
of sight.
But to convey it to the audience, this character has now changed that you were just watching. Anything would have been... Him not still staring at people he's talking to would have been great. Like,
yeah, he doesn't even act as if he's blind. He just says it out loud.
At one point, he looks at Ed as he's, like, on the ground, and he just goes, "Wait, who's touching me?"
Who's touching me?
Is that you, Fullmetal?
I assume you'd be the first one to touch me.
I would recognize that one hard hand anywhere.
Oh my.
Oh my.
So, Father in his, like, weird tar dwarf form looks, honestly, pretty cool.
So, Tar Dwarf Father is probably the best looking CGI in this entire thing.
I think it's worth noting, as good as it looks, it doesn't look like it's in the same space as anything else.
No, but it is artistic, at least.
It's good for this movie. I feel like that should probably go without saying, but I also want to point it out because I want to insult and denigrate this movie at every conceivable opportunity because it deserves it. The level of anger that was felt for the other two movies honestly pales in comparison to this one. This one was uniquely terrible relative to the other two.
The other two at least had stories.
Yep. In this, we just go through the eclipse sequence. It's, the dwarf opens up the big continent-sized Gate of Truth and eats God. He has a beam struggle with Hohenheim.
I'm firing my laser!
He has a beam struggle with Hohenheim long enough for Scar to finish off Wrath. Mm-hmm. And then begin the reverse transmutation circle to make the various souls that Father absorbed rebel against him. But he still swallowed God. Mm-hmm. So that's when he fires his laser!
And this sequence, dear listeners, I made the joke, I'm a firing my laser when the mouth started glowing. Safe in the knowledge that was not what was about to happen. And then it literally just happens. He fires a mouth beam cannon that looks like the goddamn shoop-de-whoop. I lost it.
Anyone who's not ancient, I don't even know how to explain early YouTube to you.
Just search Shoop da Whoop and have fun with that, I guess. But,
Don't watch this movie. Go look up that.
yeah,
And
exactly.
it's a much better
You'll be-
use of your time.
Yes, you'll be much more entertained.
So we have the final fight against Father. I'm not gonna lie, I started falling asleep. This movie was just sapping my soul out.
It was turning you into a philosopher's stone.
They've got a great scene where they get out from the cavern they're in by hopping on, like, basically turd-looking earth platforms. They just kind of rise out of the ground.
Man, tough who? This earth bending, right?
Well, that's what alchemy is, right?
Yeah,
It's just earthbending.
Blasphemy.
Ed ganks
Yes.
Celine
Yep.
Yep.
by just grabbing him and just materializing his head, and just like, Ed kills a child. And mentions he turns himself into a philosopher's stone. You only know that because Celine says it.
I declared it.
Yep. And he turns Celine into little fetus thing that he then just kind of leaves on his folded up coat, says,
You stay there.
You stay there. I'll be back. Little did he know he'd never come back.
We never hear from him again. And then there's the sequence of trying to wear down Father's shields and then, beat the crap out of him after that. Basically punch him in the stomach until he vomits up God.
There are so many cases where it's like, okay, we can do the thing now. What the fuck is the thing? I don't know, but we're gonna do it. And then some kind of colorful explosion happens. Okay, now we can do the thing. What the f*** is the thing? What is happening now?
Like, at one point, Ed gets impaled on a piece of rebar, and he can't move. His automail arm's been destroyed. And then Alphonse just has to go, but no, he traded his arm for my body at one point, so clearly the opposite must work. Equivalent exchange. And I'm like, well, equivalent exchange clearly wasn't equivalent earlier, but you know what? Whatever.
We're not going to talk about that because this movie doesn't have consistent internal rules.
Yeah, which I think that's also how the manga works. So I'm not going to blame this movie for that. There's other things it did wrong. And there's a whole thing where May gets to do something useful, creates the transmutation circle. Edward yells no, and Alphonse trades his body, or his soul, I guess is what he ends up trading.
Yeah, his soul for Ed's arm. And just as a note, I don't think Ed and Al say each other's names at any point.
No,
They say brother constantly.
There's a lot of brother going around.
Yep. And so, with his flesh arm restored, Ed is able to beat the piss out of Father.
You can do it now, Ed. What is it? Punch Father with my bare fist. This has nothing to do with alchemy. It's just a fist fight now. But we're going to frame it in slow-mo like it means anything.
Which is kind of baffling because we can talk about continuity all we want, but he's been without his arm for 10 years now?
A long time.
But
And
he's still able to land a punch with this same arm.
yeah.
It does have longer nails, so that's how you know it's the original arm.
So, with Father defeated, the dwarf is poorly sucked into the Door of Truth in bad CGI, and then Ed goes to do the thing where he gives up his ability to do alchemy in exchange for Al being returned.
Come on, you can't skim over the fact that Greedling they tried to make us care about.
Oh my god, I
right.
forgot about that.
Right.
So
Greed did a thing.
Greed is like, I'm in my rebellious phase, because he keeps saying that, and then Father just punches him through the chest and dies.
But I was in my rebellious phase.
But then Greed's just like, aha, but you fell for my trap and now I'm in your mouth. Hit me, Edward.
What?
Which also sucked Greed out of Ling's body, so Ling is now mortal again. and has a Philosopher's Stone, so his mission is fulfilled, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So, Father is destroyed, and Al is returned. We have an interminably long Where Are They Now segment.
That doesn't actually answer any of the Where Are They Nows.
Yeah, it's amazing, because they managed to skip out on so many, like, important, like, character moments. Like, they never resolve Mustang being blind. They never give him the ultimatum of using a Philosopher's Stone to fix his blindness when he knows what they are, and he has to make the moral choice of paying souls for that effect. That doesn't happen in the...
No, Hawkeye just kind of goes, hey, you're blind. Suck it up. You can still be a leader. I mean, not an actual leader, but a leader. I'm like, Hawkeye!
Yeah.
Why? Why would you phrase it that way?
I'm being honest. I believe in you.
Okay, so we're canceling Hohenheim, and now we're canceling Hawkeye.
Yep. And so we...
Wait, hold on. It looks like hashtag cancel Hawkeye was already going strong. I wonder why.
Oh, ouch.
So we end on the classic scene on the at the train platform where Ed's going to go off on some sort of adventure, but before he goes, he has to propose to Winry in the most Ed way possible. She accepts, they hug, it's cute.
They do the same line of dialogue 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
It's different variations on the same thing. And it's so long.
It's so long. And in the most beautiful way this movie could have ended.
Which almost makes it worth it.
We end on a freeze frame of Ed, like, briefcase slung over his shoulder, going to step on the train, smiling, that turns into a sepia-toned picture.
They badly Photoshop the still frame of the movie into a sepia tone photograph, and then it just says Finn, because it thinks it's some kind of classy art house movie, I guess.
And that's Fullmetal Alchemist, the final alchemy. It's f***ing over, yay!
That's the ending it deserved.
It's over? Question mark?
It's over, period. Finn, period.
And then they do a live action adaptation of Conquerors of Shambhala.
If only we got live action Hitler summoning a bunch of dragons.
That'd be hilarious.
So next No Read November, Fullmetal Alchemist Part 4, the finalist Alchemy.
I mean...
What's there even to discuss?
I mean, we're not going to continue watching, because there's nothing left. We're done.
I make the executive decision.
We're not revisiting it.
No.
Okay.
Okay, good.
I declared it.
So, Sam, as the person who loves Fullmetal Alchemist the most out of all of us, aren't you glad it got the live action treatment?
I feel like I didn't drink enough.
I feel like that's a threat. You're about to get the live action treatment. I'm sorry?
These movies are the reason why live action adaptations have a bad reputation. This is everything wrong with a live action adaptation of a anime or manga.
So, we haven't, because we're not idiots, we didn't go back and check the first 2 since we've watched them.
I want to never watch any of these movies again.
I somehow seem to remember the first one being at least watchable in comparison to this.
Yes. This was painfully intolerable because they had obviously written themselves into numerous corners with the first 2 movies and then just had to speed run everything else iconic.
Particularly the first movie, because the second movie was designed to be the middle movie in a trilogy, whereas the first movie was originally designed to be a self-contained movie with tacit sequel bait tacked onto the end in case it made enough money to get more films.
Which is why it was confusing, because I can't even argue. So, it wasn't the script, it was not the directing. Like, what really fell through to kind of leave it till...
Well, probably COVID.
Probably.
Yeah, given when this movie was made, that probably had a pretty heavy factor.
But I mean, this was the third movie in the trilogy, so it's kind of like... But I mean, to me, it felt heavy. Where it's kind of...
It was too dense, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also the third movie in a trilogy, so the only people really paying for it are the people already invested.
Mm-hmm.
So...
But don't you want, like... That's what I mean, like, quality.
No. You want their money.
You want their money and to pay as little in the making of it as possible.
So we just need to hit the key visual beats, even if we pay them no justice, even if they have zero actual thought or energy behind them. We just need to make them happen.
Yeah, this is
highway robbery.
I mean, strictly speaking, this is a video game term, but this is shovelware. This is, we slapped a well-known, well-loved property with a lot of iconography and a dedicated fan base onto something that we made for 45 cents in a weekend, and this is what you get when you do that. I mean, not for nothing, but like if you look at a case of comparing it to something like a both very transformative but also really faithful adaptation like the Netflix Death Note, they changed a lot, but they changed what they had to fit the shape of a movie. Whereas Fullmetal Alchemist, it was more concerned about doing the things that were iconic and popular, as many of those as possible in as short amount of time. Like, I mean, like, they're both cash grabs, but at least one put effort into it. This was, hey, the fans are dedicated enough that they ignored all of the unfathomably crimson red flags in this first movie. We made some money on it. Let's just make the other two in a weekend and be done with it. We'll be raking in the cash from this forever.
You hear that, Sam? It's your fault.
I'm gonna go to bed. Thank you, everybody, once again for tuning into the Over Manga Cast. As always, you can find us on all of your social medias, where we are at Over Manga Cast.
We are also on YouTube, where you can like, comment, and subscribe. Please give us an engagement. Please make this worth it for us. This is so painful. If you want to catch up with our episodes, the YouTube is on a 2-week delay, so you can head over to overmangacast.com, and we also have a place where you can leave comments on individual episodes there as well.
And as always, we appreciate reviews in any and all form, and I really got to apologize. No Read November is a month of live-action anime movies, so... You know, keep that in mind when you're giving us a review.
And on that note, if you actually have any good recommendations for some live actions, send them our way. That'd be really appreciated.
We need them desperately.
I don't think there are good live-action anime movies at this point. I think Death Note was a fever dream.
Well, we're going to find out next week by diving deep into the archives of movie history by watching Fist of the North Star from the 1995 live-action Hollywood adaptation.
This can't go poorly.
That was a choice. Like, a solid choice, but a choice.
I don't even know. I'm dead inside after this movie, so we'll see.
We'll see you all next Thursday. Good night, everybody.
Good night, folks.
Save us.
Good night.